Right, good morning. Regular Wednesday stream just about to start now. Okay, so today I previously had been doing the Eleanor sculpt with Griblet. So she's completely finished, supported, test printed, rolled out to patrons and subscribers now. Anybody who was subscribed in last month's kind of what's it called, Patreon and Tribes, you will have already received her in your inbox. So today I was going to carry on doing the Adventurers Guild characters, but you can see on the screen I've got a couple of ones here that I did for the Crystal Collapse game that I'm working on with my mate Max. Max was going to be on stream this morning. He was going to come and join us, but he's setting up his stand at Essen at the moment, so he's ready to spiel it this weekend. So he's on the stall for Nanolith. So if you're going to be in the area, you're going to be checking it out, be sure to pop over and say hello. Right, so we've got two characters here. We've got Kurado and we've got Roland. Story-wise, they are brothers. Kurado is the bigger, more badass hard hitter. Roland is Roland is a leader character. And he's the younger brother, dual wielding, and if I remember right, I think he can take some punishment in the game, but he's a bit. His function in the game is as a leader, so he's not there as a damage dealer, although he's still quite a competent fighter. Right then, so these characters were done based off the original artwork. We decided we basically set an art style which kind of mirrored can't think what the game was we were looking for influence from. It was more manga from like the 90s and 2000s, I would say. It was kind of like they had an old school manga feel about them. Nice artwork, nothing wrong with the style. And then we decided we were going to kind of change the art style up a little bit because it wasn't kind of delivering what we wanted it to. So as nice as it was, it felt a bit too, kind of happy clappy kind of thing. So we've gone for a kind of a grittier art style now. So I'm just going to show you the new artwork that we're going to be working to today. So we're going to be doing Kurado, the guy with the big sword. Now the sword hasn't changed, so the sword is remaining, so I'll be leaving that as is. I'm going to use the original figure that we've got here as a basis for it, and then we're going to just modify it. So I'll take the armour, I'll take the swords and various other bits that I've already made. We're going to give him a more dynamic action pose than the artwork's got. The artwork's quite a static, stationary look to it. So we're going to go for something a bit more, with a bit more action about it. Okay, so just coming down now. Here is the new artwork for Kurado. So this is what we're going to be converting him to. So if I just drop the two side by side, so you can see both images at the same time. So there we go. So we're going to go from this version of Kurado where he's got the big sword up on his shoulder. It looks a bit more, I don't know, cartoony, I suppose, in the original. And we're going to be switching him up to have the new art style. So probably a little bit taller. The other thing we decided as well, we're going to, because the game actually only features 4 models a side, we're going to scale it up a little bit. So we're going to be doing 40mm miniatures for this one. 45, I can't remember, but they're going to be larger anyway, so there'll be a bit more detail in the models, but you'll be able to kind of get in there and actually paint them. So they'll be roughly about the same size as a Stormcast miniature from Games Workshop. So they'll be, they'll feel nice in your hand. They'll be easily visible from a distance when you're playing the games. You won't get any confusion about who's who. Okay, so Morning Rich, morning Elston. Thank you guys for tuning in. Okay, so I need to save that image down because I actually haven't saved him yet. So I need to get that up on my screen. What I'll do is I'll just drop it in the corner again, like I did with Alan. So just bear with me a second while I just configure this with my incredibly poor planning. Yeah, so Kurado, I'm given to understand, is the Japanese word for cloud, and now he's got this massive, great big, hefty sword over his shoulder. You might see the reasoning for the name. So these guys are both from House Basalia, or the Kingdom of Basalia. I'm not entirely sure which one we're going with, but they are both in the same faction, along with, I think the other two characters that I'll be joined with are Victoria and Fina. So Victoria's a ranger and she's got like a little squirrel friend sitting on her hand, and Fina is like she's like a cleric, and I think she's a I don't know what you call them, like a cat lady with the cat ears. So when the artwork's done for them, we'll get stuck in. Their opponents, the opposition faction, is the Empire. You know, good old Japanese classic RPG trope. So the evil Empire are going to be the bad guys. They're led by the king, whose name is Lucifer, but I believe that's a working title. He may get a different name before the game goes live. And they're a really cool faction actually. They're the ones I normally play when we play test. Got a character in there called Mr. Powder. Again, I don't know if that's a working title or if that's the name we're going with, but he uses like a magical rifle that literally shoots like bolts of magic out of it. We've got Joshua, who is the closest thing we've got to a Kane style dragoon in the game. He doesn't have the aesthetic, he's much more lightly armoured, but he does have a kind of a jumping mechanic with a spear, so he can kind of like leap around and you know, cause lots of mischief and lots of damage. Morning AJ, thank you for joining the stream this morning. Hope you're all well, people. Okay, so I'm going to losing my track of what I'm doing. Oh, here we go. So Kurado's coming onto the screen now, hopefully. There we go. So I'll pop him in the corner there, just so we've got a reference of what I'm doing. And now I need to make sure I've got a picture of him on the screen that I can actually see myself. So just bear with me a second while I just grab it. Right, there we go. Right, so I've got my reference image on my screen. We've got Kurado ready to rock. I'm just going to switch tools now. So, this is the model I've done for the Imperial troops. At some point, we may open it up and turn it into a kind of a wider scale war game, where you'll have a hero character with like a small retinue with him. So the plan here would be that whilst we've got Kurado running around in Crystal Collapse on his own with the 4 other characters, in the tabletop skirmish game we'll have Kurado with a little retinue of greatsword troops, and they'll kind of go around. You'll pick your heroes and you'll get their retinues and you'll use them to create like a mini army, if you like. But that's a way off. This was early planning, and we've decided to go for the 4 character kind of smaller scale game to go with. Okay, so I've got Kurado. I'm just trying to find the one where I've got all the subtools broken down. This one. Here we go. So I actually coloured this one as well, just loosely. I'm going to turn the colours off though because they're distracting. but this was how the original Kurado looks. So we're going to go for more of a kind of a classic Cloud attack, you know, where he's kind of like really wide stance, hunched down, and he's got his sword in his hands, ready to rock. Jerry, thank you for the like, mate. So yeah, so we're going to go quite low to the ground, wide stance, sword in both hands, like ready to go, ready to attack. Now I believe I have an image reference for that, so I'm just going to kind of find it. Yeah, so this is the kind of pose we were going to go for. So quite low to the ground, wide stance, big sword, facing down the enemy. Okay. So first thing I need to do is take this guy back into a T pose. Now, it might be easier for me to work with this one because he's already T posed. Let's take dynamic perspective off because that skews things. Okay. Right, so it doesn't look like his armour is changing that much. I need to redo his elbow pads on his braces, on his gauntlets. His shoulder pads are going to need reworking for the new artwork. His breastplate is subtly different, but definitely is different, so that needs a little bit of extra work. I might get in and focus on that first. Right, so I'm going to come to this guy. I think I'm going to clone the tool on this one. So cloning the tool basically leaves this version of him intact. It's going to give me a second tool up here. So oh no, it's just done a sword. So I'm just going to take these, I'm just going to copy them into another tool. So I'm just going to paste that over here, delete the sphere because I don't need the sphere. We're going to, let's see. That's the one I wanted. Right, let's copy that. Okay, so it's okay, just having him on there we go. Just having him in a kind of a static, straightforward pose just means I can work in symmetry on him, so when I'm doing things like the armour details, it's going to make it that much easier to actually get the good effect I want. So breastplate first, I think. I'm just going to come and isolate the breastplate armour from the rest of the model. So I'll take all the armour trims. These have all been done using curve brushes with the frame mesh function. So I may show you how to do that in a little bit, but Wilkasama, thank you for joining in. Welcome to the stream again. Good to have you back. Okay, split hidden. Okay, so now we've got a breastplate to work with. The trim here I'm going to have to just lose, I think. That one I'll leave as is. Okay, so it's going to delete the hidden on that one. Okay, so this one now, the breastplate comes more further down, so I'm just going to make sure I've got my symmetry on. Mask off and isolate that. I'm just going to pull that past the bottom there. This line here I think is fine. I'm going to leave that one where it is. I just need to buff out and polish out this panel line in the armour. And I'm just going to upsize the brush for a minute just to bring the whole thing out. Okay. I'm just going to go to my clay tool. I'm just going to put a little bead of clay in there just to fill the hole. This is one of the things I would also encourage anybody to do, whether you're painting miniatures or sculpting anything. It's very easy to undo mistakes, so Control Z, when you're doing anything digitally, and when you're painting models, obviously you need to kind of. I used to be very worried when I was painting models that I would get paint on a bit that I'd just finished that was all complete and done. And it's always difficult to try and paint anything and kind of keep it completely intact, keep your paint job intact. And what I have found is over the years I've gotten to a point now where I'm a lot more comfortable with what I'm doing, and I know that my abilities are sufficient to be able to make up for mistakes rather, not just make up mistakes, make up for mistakes. So if I sculpt something I don't like, sometimes if it's beyond saving or I really don't like what I'm looking at, I'll bin it and get rid. But more often than not, you can kind of make it good, so you can kind of, you know, repair it, get it to a point where it is usable, and it's good practice to be able to do that. So rather than relying on the undo tools and starting afresh or whatever else, whether you're doing digital paintings, whether you're doing Zbrush, try and just work over your mistakes and rework it until you're happy with it. It'll give you a little bit more confidence in the long run. Okay, so the armour profile has changed now, actually, looking at this, so I was wrong in what I said before. It has changed quite significantly. So we've now got the breastplate starts up here, it's going to come across, then when we've got these like shoulder bits going on, they are actually part of the breastplate now. So it comes down and round to about here before it comes back round. So I'm just going to pull the breastplate here. I'm going to hold Alt to pull it away from the body so it doesn't go in. I need to keep an eye on this line because this line still needs to be straight, so I'm going to have to kind of just play with this one. And okay, so this originally started out as a series of extracted masks off the torso. So I'd have masked off an area that was roughly the shape I wanted it. And then once I got the approximate shape masked out, I'll go back into the tool once it's extracted, and then I'll just refine the shape, polish it, clip bits off if I don't need them, use trim dynamic, H polish, just to get the edges where I am. Pretty much what I'm doing now, except I'd have started with a closer shape, so, but the shape would have been a lot rougher as well. So I'm going to do this reworking process with Roland and Kurado, because they're both already done, in a version at least. And then when I come to do, I think the next ones will be, after these two guys are done, we'll be doing Lucifer, the King. So quite looking forward to that one. And that will be a sculpt from scratch, so we'll be starting with a new base mesh and building everything from the ground up. Okay, so right, I think I've got that now. That may be a bit too pronounced, or it might even be that the ridge needs to come out. I'm going to take the ridge out, I think. I'm going to curve him off because it looks like the artist has smoothed out quite a lot on this version. So this is going to be a more rounded breastplate, and I think that will lend itself better to that little cross on his chest going on. Which, Max, if you're watching, I would suggest maybe we make the cross there that's on his thing. Maybe that is the symbol of House Basalia, and have that as a feature on all the characters. Okay, so going to budge this up because this wants to be part of that, and then I need to I'm going to take these borders off here, delete those borders, and I'm going to isolate these two together, mask them together, bump up my resolution on Dynamesh. I'm going to turn my groups on, which you can't see because it's happening behind the Kurado picture, and I'm going to Dynamesh the whole thing together again, and you'll see everything else is it's gone high resolution. Hang on a second, go for about 1000 resolution, 1064, that'll do. Okay, so everything's still kept its nice sharp lines, everything's still crisp and clean, but now I've got these two as a single unified mesh. So I'm just going to put a little bit of clay around the joints, and I'm going to use my H polish tool just to buff it all out, so they're going to come and join together. Right, now I can't see the neckline on Kurado's artwork because he's got his cape in a scarf type fashion wrapped around his neck. So we're going to probably leave the neck shape there as it is. I'll leave that kind of that square finish. It's not going to be visible on the end model, but we do have a little plan to make a little bit of an animation. So I am going to like reprocess all of the tools on this to try and like make them a little bit more friendly to that process. I've never done an animation with a model I've sculpted out of Zbrush, so who knows how it's going to happen, how it's going to work, if it's going to work. But if it's something you guys are interested in, I might be not 100% averse to spotting up and then doing it on stream with you. Okay, so I'm liking that now. What am I looking at here? Okay, so this front part of the oh no. This front part of the armour here is going to have to change, I think. It's just not going to work in its current format. Yeah, Wilkes, I'm talking about actually rigging it and doing an animation. So the Crystal Collapse game, what we discussed was to have like a little intro video. So the starter set that we're doing for the game is basically setting a crystal mine. So we're going to have probably Kurado, or maybe even Lucifer, the king. They're going to walk into the mine, so we'll have the mine will be kind of set up, and there'll be like a very large glowing floating crystal with cracks in it, kind of floating in the middle of the in the middle of the mine, this cave type thing. So we're going to have Lucifer probably just walking into the mine with this big glow coming out of the cave, and then maybe zooming over his shoulder up to the crystal, and then flash out to the title credits or something like that. So it won't be a long animation. There's not a lot to animate, but he still needs to be sufficiently well topologized as a model. Because if you look at the mesh here at the moment, you'd never be able to animate this. All this tiny little polygons, it'd just kill it for animation. So what we have to do is we have to run it through ZRemesher to get something that's a bit more lightweight. And then we've got to do various processes of adding bump maps and not normal maps and things like that to the mesh. So you start, if you look at like how video games do it, the mesh will be like super low poly to the point where it's almost unrecognisable as the model. And then they'll basically fake all of the detail using normal maps and bump maps. And what that does is that kind of creates or simulates the textures and stuff that you'll see on the surface in terms of how the light and shadow is going to affect it. And then once they've applied that, they apply the actual texture, the colour wrap over it, and then that way you get this really high resolution model that looks fantastic on games and animations and whatnot, that can do the job without completely killing the machine. So yeah, it's not my usual workflow, because I would start with the Dynamesh like this, and it will still be Dynameshed right up to the point when the whole model's finished. So yeah, it's going to be a little bit of a deviation from my usual practices, but it will be interesting. It'll be a challenge. Right, I'm just going to delete that bit of piping there. Yeah, I won't lie, Wilkie. It's been a long time since I've rigged the model. I'm probably going to use something like Mixamo or something like that to do the rigging automatically for us. And then once they've been auto rigged, I'll export the file from there and put that into probably Blender. Build the scene up in Blender, work through the animation with an IK rig. IKFK rig, and then yeah, it'll be it's going to be a challenge. Hopefully not too much of a challenge, because I'm a little bit time limited on the whole thing. I want to make sure we've got it ready for like Easter. Okay, so what I'm doing here at the moment, oops. Okay, so no, that's still not working. Okay, so all I've done here, I've just masked off an area. It's roughly the shape I'm after. So if you can see, just in front of his breastplate, at the bottom of his breastplate where it joins the blue cloth, on the sides of it we've got this extra little bit of armour plating that appears to be overlapping the front. So I'm just going to create that now. So this is just going to be a straight mesh extraction. So I'm going to go down to my extract. I think it's going to come out way too thick, but I can't remember, so let's check it. Actually, that's not too bad at all. I'm going to accept that. Take that as a win. Okay. So what I need to do now, I'm just going to remove this bit in the middle because I don't need it. I'm going to leave the, normally I'd delete all of this, but I don't have to on this in this particular case. It's the best way to do this now. Mask lasso, I think. Yeah, that'll do. So I'm just going to group that bit in the middle, click it, isolate it, and I'll take that as well because I don't need that. Delete the hidden, close holes, and I'm just going to do a Dynamesh with a polish on it. So fairly low res, about 500 resolution, 600 resolution. And now I'm just going to come in and polish the shape. So just clean up the edges. I've still got symmetry turned on. So what I do on one side is going to affect the other side. Doesn't matter which one I'm sculpting on, they're both going to be affected. If you ever find yourself in a point where you've got so far and you kind of realise you've forgotten to turn symmetry on, but you've done too much work that you don't want to be undoing it, you've got a mirror and well button here. So what happens with the mirror and well button is it will take stuff from one side of the image and it will just basically copy the contents of one side of the image and paste it to the other side for you. So you can create symmetry where you had none previously. So I sometimes use that if I want to start with a face that I've already done as the basis of a new character. I want to start with their face, but I've added an asymmetrical pose. I've added like scars and things like that. You know, things that change up the look of the face, but in an asymmetrical way. I can then use the mirror and well brush to kind of create a uniform symmetry or symmetrical face that I can work on. And then once I've created the face features as I want them, I can then go back in and start working on the asymmetry again, start breaking up that symmetry. Because one of the things when you're doing faces is, if you look at anybody, I don't know if you've ever seen the thing where they take a photograph of like half of your face and then mirror it over. Try it if you haven't done it before, and you'll see exactly what I mean. It looks weird. So when you see a lot of these figures that are done on, like, you know, My Mini Factory and various places like that, if there's no facial expression or the facial expression looks weird, often it can be because they've left the symmetry on all the way through. If you don't turn symmetry off, it has a kind of an unnatural vibe about it. So it's always good to break that symmetry in some way or another. So I tend to do a few little bits of, like, even the final sculpting pass on a face, I'll turn symmetry off. So when I'm, like, you know, adding final shapings to, like, things like the nose and things, it's not going to be 100% symmetrical. And I can just eyeball it then to try and gauge the symmetry as best I can. And I think you get a more believable face by doing that. But again, it's all about confidence, I think, because symmetry is one of those things that can very easily become a crutch in your sculpting. So if you're not where's my thing gone? There it is. If you're not that confident to start with, and then somebody offers you a tool that's gonna, you know, make your life a lot easier, you're gonna kind of take it and use it. I just need to hide the one that has got all the texture on there. There you go. It's just throwing me off a little bit then. Yeah, hide the one that's causing me problems. So I'm just going to bring the front forward here. But I'm going to do it with that tool. I'm going to use the widget. Okay, and you can see it's come away from the body now, so I'm just going to push it back in with the move tool. There may be a more efficient way of doing this, but if I know it, it's not in my head right at the moment, so I'm just going to do what I'm doing. Okay, so I'm just going to spend a bit of time just nudging the edges back in. don't want it to be too thick. I want it to be quite uniform. So now I'm just using the H polish again. I'll tell you, anybody who's tuned in for like all of my streams so far must be sitting here thinking all he ever does is bloody use H polish in all cracks. And I'll be honest, you're not wrong. It feels like that sometimes. I don't know why I've done this now, but I seem to have added an extra chunk that I shouldn't even have on here. This whole top piece here actually isn't necessary, it's not even supposed to be there. I'm just going to use the trim dynamic brush, I'm just going to mash that down a bit. H polish again, clean it up, straighten it out. There you go, job's a good one. Okay, so I want to bring this to the centre line here. So I'm going to keep the back piece. The back piece is going to stay. These straps are going to stay. I just need to take the buckle back. So I'm just going to take the I'm just going to isolate this a second because this is wrong. So I've just dynameshed it after I've grouped it. I'm just going to delete hidden, and then I just need to take that bit off the end there. So need to make sure there's a little bit of depth to this belt. So again, we're talking about a 40mm miniature. It's going to be bigger than the standard 32mm, but it's still going to be small. It's still going to need the exaggerations and these little details here. If I put that too close to the armour plate, this is all going to be lost in the final model. So I just want to bring it out just a touch, so there's a bit of depth to it. Because if you're going to put a detail on a model, you might as well make sure it's going to show up. Okay. Next piece, I'm going to add a small cube. I'm going to add it to there. I'm going to use this as a belt strap, so I want it to be the same thickness as the belt that's here. And this is just the strap coming around the back where it's going to connect into the armour plate. Okay, so I'm going to bring it in, it needs to shrink a touch. Okay, now it's good. Now I don't need loads of, I hate it when it does this. Okay, I'm just going to pull this out here. Again, I want the depth still. I'm going to re-dynamesh now, even though it's tessellated to hell. I'm just going to redo the dynamesh on it with the groups on. And now I've got these pieces have been uniformed with the topology. And I can use my H-polish tool again, good old H-polish, to just buff out the texture that I don't want, smooth it all out, and then just square off the ends. See why I love this tool? I'm just going to come to the top. I'm just going to use a large sized move brush just to bring the top out, because the top and the bottom are not even. I'm going to use the same thing again to just push that bottom back in. That should be roughly about even now. And then what should I put it on with? It's had a you ain't gonna see it. I'm just gonna leave it like that. It's gonna be behind the armor plate. If the armor was gonna be visible, if he wasn't wearing, I didn't mean armor plate. Sorry, I meant cloak. So yeah, if it was gonna be more visible, I would probably at this point now put like a little ring in there, a little mount with a little ring in it, just as a little bit of interest. But you're not gonna see it, so it's not required. Right, so we've got the extra bit of armour on the sides here, we've got the main breastplate. This needs a second layer, I think. No, I know what it needs. It needs me to do this. I'm going to split that. I'm going to duplicate it. I'm going to center my cursor with symmetry turned off, and I'm going to inflate it so it's bigger, and then I'm going to rotate it a touch, turn transparency on, and I'm going to slice it straight through there so I can see. And then I'm going to dynamesh it. So slice creates a separate poly group, so you can see it's in two colours now. I'm going to take the top poly group, hide it, delete it, get rid, and that is going to leave me with that, which when I turn my transparency back off again, you'll see better. Okay, now the bit that's all the way up here, I'm just going to push that in and hide it because I just don't need it. And remember earlier I was saying about doing something in symmetry and then forgetting you've got symmetry, or forgetting to turn symmetry on. That's exactly what I've just done. So now I'm just going to do my mirror and weld, and I've undone it again, so just undo that. I'm going to flip it first. I'm going to mirror it, so it's obviously it's taking whatever is on this side, on the left hand side as I look at it, and it's mirroring it to the other side. So I'm going to just flip it first, so the left hand side is the bit I want to keep, and I'm just going to press mirror and weld again, and then that's done the job now. And that is how you solve problems. Okay, right, now this breastplate needs the trim around the outside. So again, I'm going to duplicate this breastplate. The reason I'm duplicating everything here is because by having where I want trim going on, I need it to be a separate mesh. The reason for that is because when I come to add colour to this and do it as a colour presentation, it's going to end up, what's the word now? If it's one object and you're colouring it, the join becomes muddy and it's difficult to apply texture to. Whereas if I put the whole thing in with all the trims and everything, every different colour, every different material, there's a different object. I can then use different materials, different colours, and have nice clean transitions between them, which obviously is, you know, a goal to see it through. Right, I'm going to inflate this just a touch. I don't want it to come past the edge of this ridge we've just created. And then I need to make sure we've got some decent, good, high resolution on here. Polish again, and I'm just going to dynamesh that. So I've gone up to about 1500 now, so it's probably twice as dense as the previous one. You can see some little artifacts coming out in there, but that's fine. And what I need to do now is I'm just going to go around, I'm just going to put the trim in on the corners. So, where to do this now? What to use? Masking. I'm going to mask it. Okay. So a small masking brush for the outline. I want my focal shift right down to 0, and that's going to make sure that the edge of the mask is nice and hard. If I do a with focal shift 0 there, it comes out like that. If I do with focal shift, oh, they're looking the same. I think it's the size of the brush, to be honest, but it doesn't matter. I can do it anyway. So I'm going to use a combination of positive and negative strokes here to mask this off, with my laser mouse turned on as well, just to make sure the lines are crisp. No. Okay, yeah. So lazy mouse, if you've got any amount of wobble in your sculpting and you're not happy with it, make sure you got your lazy mouse turned on, because that means that the line's always going to chase the average point of where your mouse cursor's been, and it just takes that instant wobble out. When you're colouring, or when you're blocking in with like a mask, if you do like this, like I do, then you want it turned off. Okay, and then there's like a little circular bit in the corner here that I'm just going to add back in. Come on, autosave. And I just want to push it back beyond the original one. And now we've got the gold trim. There we go. So I've got Mac sending me photos from Essen. It's looking good. Wish I could be there. I say my mate Chris from Cursed Empire, he's also doing Essen as well. I'm in a group with him where he's prepping everybody to get ready to go, and it has made me chuckle the last couple of days, talking about packing suitcases with 120 kilograms worth of saleable product. Chris, if you're listening, I really hope you manage to shift a load of that for the show, so I'm going to bring it back again. You need a van next time, mate. Okay, so there we go. So we've got the white part of the breastplate here. We've got the gold part here. Then we've got the shoulder strap over the top, which I might just add a little extra piece of armour into there with a trim on it, so I can see a little bit just in the corner, just next to his well, basically there. I can see a little bit on the picture. Right, I'm going to come to the centre again. I'm going to go back to the original breastplate. I'm going to mask off this like star shape now. So we're going to go there to there. It's a cross, isn't it? It's not a star. And this is only going to be approximate because it's going to get extracted, which is going to kind of change the shape of it anyway. So it's going to look rubbish by the time it's extracted, probably. So start large and then refine is the usual way of doing it. The smaller brushes you'll have a lot more accuracy over your edges. Okay, and now we've got the little bits in the corners too. Do the extraction again. Perfect. Accept. Okay, I'm just going to polish that and dynamesh it with a 300 resolution, 350. I'm just going to take the mask off first. Okay. No, that was fine actually, yep. I'll take that. Okay, I'm going to use my Orbs Cracks brush. I'm going to divide this a few times first though, so I've got a little bit of geometry to work with. I don't want to have to come back in and redo it all. I'm going to use Orbs Cracks, and then from the top down, I'm just going to alt it all the way in, follow that central crest line. Bear in mind it's got symmetry on, so you want to try and keep fairly straight on that. Otherwise you're going to end up with fat bits and wobble, and if you go like that, it's, you know. And then we're going to go from the centre point, we're going to come out to the edges. And you can see that's a little bit of a wobbly line, but I'm just going to change the angle. One of the things I would say is I think everybody has got at least one good brush stroke in them. You need to figure out where it is. And for me, it's probably from the middle of the screen to the bottom, so I tend to work in this position for the most part. And it's going to pay you to rotate the model round so that it favours your preferred position. Little tip for you. So if you're finding you're struggling, just rotate models. Same for painting as well. Painting miniatures, exactly the same thing. I end up painting eyes on the right hand side of the face fine. When I do the eye on the left hand side of the face, quite often I end up having to flip the model upside down to be able to get my brush into the position to do it. I just find it that much more difficult painting the one on the other side. I don't know why, I'm sure I'm not alone in that, but okay, so I'm just going to use H polish again, surprise surprise. I'm going to come down the centre line with the Alt button depressed, so this is an inverted polish I'm applying. So this is going to raise up the of the surface rather than lower it down. I want to make sure this centre line here stays smooth, so I don't want any bumps and lumps on that. Okay, fairly happy with that one. Okay, I'm just going to come do the same on this side, except I don't have the benefit of the centre line on this one. Now the other way you could do this, if you want to maintain complete symmetry, I'll re-dynamesh, high resolution, polish it, higher than that. Yeah, so one of the other ways you can do this, if you're looking to get the if you want to make use of that symmetry, you only have to like sculpt a quarter of the whole design. You have your X and your Y symmetry, your X and your Z symmetry on. No, yeah, it would be X and Y, sorry, on this one for the front. Have your X and Y symmetry turned on, and then you sculpt the model on a flat plane. And then you just have to use the. In fact, you know what, I'm going to hide this because I've got a feeling what I'm telling you is probably going to make it a better look for me, and it's going to give me an asset I can use on other models as well, which I'm probably going to need. So I'm going to append a cube. Oh, that's a big one. Okay, so on this cube now, I'm just going to dynamesh it. About 400 and odd resolution. Doesn't need to be a big cube like this really, but and what I'm going to do is, there's probably so many better ways of doing this than what I'm actually doing now, but I'm going to activate symmetry X and Y. You see I've got 4 dots on the thing moving around this box now. So I'm going to use the masking tool, start at the top. Thanks for the like, Richard. Thanks for joining in. Okay. So yes, this is a way of doing it. It's not necessarily the way. It's not the best way. It is a symmetrical cross actually, so I just need to reduce that mouse down. So I'm actually going to do this in a couple of parts. I'm not going to do I'm not going to do this in one pass. So those little stars in the middle, I might even reuse the same thing, rotate it 45 degrees and then bring it through the gap. So that is going to be there. I'm just going to take the shape out and extrude it from the front. Okay. I'll slice that, take the back off. And again, like I said, there's got to be better ways of doing it than I'm doing now. Oh. Okay, so now I've got the cross shape. I'm going to do what I was doing before with the center ridge line. What you can actually do here is if you hold the Shift key as soon as you draw the as soon as you put the so use the tool you're going to use, touch your mouse down or press your pen to the paper or the tablet, and then start drawing your line. And just as you're about to start drawing, hold Shift down and you get this line comes up. And as long as the line stays on 0, then the line is going to be perfectly straight. If you change the angle, it's going to change the line, and then you let go of 0. Okay. And then that gives you that look. You get a lovely straight horizontal line. Or I should have done it going up, but it's done anyway. So, and I'm going to use my H polish. And again, you've got to pay very careful attention to your shadows when you're working in 3D, because it's your shadows and your highlights that help you to interpret the three-dimensional shape. If they're off and they're not working, then you've got a problem that you need to fix. So you can tell where you've got little dimples and divots and things like that because of the shadows. So make sure you find a material that works well for you. Don't use red clay because it's horrible. Morning Dio, how you doing? Thanks for joining in again. Alki, thanks for joining the stream as well, mate. Are you running on after this? Do you want me to raid into you after once I'm done, or a few hours yet? Okay, so we've got a cross. So the next thing I need to do, I'm going to duplicate the cross. Ain't no good, man. It's good. It's fine, mate. I think I might be doing a stream on Friday as well. But again, if I'm running before you, I'll raid into you, and if I'm running afterwards, I'll let you know. Right, I'm going to duplicate the cross. I'm going to take this one now. I want it dead centre. I'm going to rotate it 45 degrees. And I'm going to shrink it. Okay. I probably shrunk it too much then, to be fair. Okay, so there we go. Drop that back. We've now got a nice little crest for the middle of this guy's chest. But the problem is, it's completely flat, and that is not a flat surface I'm going to be applying it to. So merge that down, join the two parts together. So auto group it. I'm going to save it as bizarrely crest. Or name it bizarrely crest rather, and I'm going to duplicate it. I'm going to hide the original. Okay, just so I don't accidentally trash it, because if I need to put this on a shield or something like that, I don't want to use the one that's all mashed up. Okay, so shrink it down to approximately the size I want. I'm going to position it where I want it. So I think that looks about right. Touch smaller maybe. Okay, now I'm going to try the matchmaker brush. Wish me luck. I've had mixed success with this in the past. Where is it? There you go. So the matchmaker brush, what you do is you get to the dead centre of the model, you pop it down, and then you pull it out. Oh god, it's pushed it right the way through. So that was, I think the Z intensity is a bit too high on that. Let's take it down. What this does is it reprofiles. That's not. That hasn't worked. Told you I have limited success with it. Let's put it in a bit more. Let's see if it works now. It will change the shape so it conforms to the curves of whatever's underneath it. Edwin, thanks for joining. No worries, mate. It'll be on Twitch later. You can tune in and watch a little bit more if you need to. But yeah, I'll be doing this one every Wednesday. I'll probably do a few more streams in the week actually, just to wrap him up and get him done. But thank you for joining. Enjoy work. Have a good day. Okay, so you can see it's done some weird stuff with the base mesh. Oh god, it's not even symmetrical now. What's happened there? How's that happened? That's because I haven't got symmetry turned on. Stupid. Symmetry's back on. Let's do it again with symmetry. What is this brush doing? So no matter what I'm doing, even though I'm working on symmetrical meshes, it's not coming out with symmetrical results. And it's bothering me. Right. And what's this? What's this stepping it's done? Okay, so this doesn't work. Tried and failed. Yeah, Alki, it's supposed to bend it round. So basically what's supposed to happen is you take like a Space Marine shoulder pad, you take a two-dimensional sigil that you've made, and then you can plonk it over the top of the thing, and then you go, right, bang, there you go, done. Except in this case it's clearly not working. See if I take it further away, if it makes any difference. So it's just distorting everything. It should be just bending it. Okay, so what I'm going to do instead, I'm going to take a different tact entirely. I'm going to use a tool which is part of the widget. Chris, thanks for tuning in, mate. I know you're a busy man. I hope your setup's going well. Are you setting up today, or are you just landing and unpacking all your bags? So yes, like I say, it should bend and conform the mesh that you're working with to whatever mesh is behind it. But as you can see, it's doing loads of weird stuff. It's deforming it. It's really not working as I want it to. So I'm going to use, while I've got this widget on, so this is called the gizmo. This is how you move things and position things in Zbrush, rotate it round. I'm going to click on the little cog here. I'm going to go to, I think it's deformer is the one. Okay, so what this does is it puts like a grid around it. So I'm going to mask off just the top portion of the grid, and then with my tool there, I'm just going to push that back and then stop. Okay, and I'm going to come to the bottom portion of the grid. Let my autosave go through. And I'm going to do the same there, so I'm going to deform the bottom bit. And I'm going to come to the sides now. So this has still got the symmetry turned on, but I'm just going to isolate both sides at a time. I'm just going to push them both back. And now I'm just going to have to bring this center one out. So mask the top, mask the bottom, mask the side, mask the other side, literally just the center point. I'm just going to pull this out now, keep pulling, keep pulling, keep pulling until I get the desired effect. It still isn't the desired effect because the bottom is still distorted. What is going on? Yeah, it is. It is the move tool, but you can add different different effects to it. So I'm gonna undo this again. Let's put the deformer back. It's not playing ball. I think it's because it's deforming on an angle. So it might pay me to just rotate the whole model again and just no. No, I know what I'm going to do. Okay, so I'm going to take the bottom ones here, and instead of just moving them, I'm going to rotate them. The top one, again, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to rotate that around. Oops, we've got one up in there. It's added. So yeah, we're still using the move tool. Okay, gaming system wise is what I assume you're asking there, mate. So yeah, I don't have a single definitive gaming system. So there's a couple of things going on. So the first one, which is the most, probably the one that's going to happen first out of everything, is the Cursed Empire game. So I was saying my man Chris, who's doing Spiel at the moment, is getting all set up. He's doing a tabletop skirmish game for Cursed Empire. So Cursed Empire is a role-play game. It's been around for about 22 years. And he's been doing a lot of development work. He's got a nice card game called the Heroes of Thargos, the card game, which went through Kickstarter recently, did really well, pretty well. We've got the War Galleys of Thargos. So if you've ever played the Assassin's Creed Odyssey, where you're in the War Galleys, it emulates that in a card game format. And the card games all plug into the roleplay game as well, so you can kind of, you can pick and choose your format for your battles and your encounters, which is nice. And then we've got the tabletop skirmish game, which he's working on at the moment. So I've got a load of nice undead stuff coming for that one, under the Cursed Empire banner. And then there's one he's promoting at the moment called Ascendia, which I haven't actually spoke to him a lot about Ascendia. I need to get the lowdown on it and see what it is. But it seems to be an expansion on the card game, which is like hero centric again. It looks good. It definitely looks good. Why have I got a second star down here? I was going to hide this second one down here because I don't know why I've got it and I don't need it. Let's delete that. Nope. I was going to put symmetry on a y-axis instead of z. So it's duplicated up and down. So yeah, so there's no fixed skirmish game for my range, but there is one that is incorporating it. So the Thargos, Heroes of Thargos, Cursed Empire tabletop skirmish game, tabletop roleplay game, that is designed to use a lot of my models. So Chris has licensed the range off me for that. He's doing artwork he's having artwork done for various of the models that I've already done, and he's incorporating rules into the game for it. Now, another mate of mine, GM Moley, if you've ever seen him on popping up on Facebook, or he does his Twitter as well. He just started doing that again now. We've got a YouTube channel too. He has actually done what do you call them now? The data cards for Age of Sigmar, for pretty much everything I've got in my range. So there's cards to be able to adapt them into the game. He's working on some D&D bits and bobs as well. So he's got the D&D like the profile card to use it as a character and the profile card to use it as an encounter. So there's the two different formats there. Then we've got another one. We've got the Crystal Collapse, which is the figures I'm working on today. So this guy that I'm sculpting at the moment, if you weren't on at the beginning of the stream, you wouldn't have seen it, but his name's Kurado. Kurado is one of the key characters for hang on, I seem to have nerfed the image. No, was she back? Hang on, that's the wrong character. Going down. So that's Kurado. He's one of the key characters we're looking at for the thing. This is the one I'm sculpting today. So the game is kind of a Japanese RPG strategy type game. So it's going to use all of these kind of mechanics. If you've ever played games like Ogre Tactics and Final Fantasy Tactics and Deo Field Chronicle, all of these kind of Japanese type strategy games, it uses a similar kind of gameplay to that. So this is going to be all new models, all new characters, a nice art style of its own kind of thing. So everything in there is going to be completely new. So that's nothing to do with any of my existing range. But Max, who is the creator of this, I believe has got I can't remember what it was called. We were talking about it when we first started chatting about Crystal Collapse, and the focus went to Crystal Collapse. But he's got a game system which uses it's a miniature agnostic system as he's written it, but he's going to kind of rework it and incorporate it to use my model range. So there's various different things going on, and then there's another game I'm working on with Moley as well. This is one that's probably a little bit further down the line, a bit more of a future prospect, and that's going to be kind of, I want to say, kind of like near future fantasy diesel punk kind of theme. So again, if you like Final Fantasy VII and that kind of setting, there's more stuff coming there. So I've got quite a few people kind of like, you know, doing things that are going to make use of it. So it's, yeah, I'm hoping to be seeing more of these things, more of these models on the tabletops, and starting to see them featured in the games. And again, we were talking about with Crystal Collapse. One of the things we were discussing was, do we make it print and play, or do we make it as a physical product? And at the moment, we're kind of leaning towards physical products, purely because we actually want people to play the game. And whilst I think we could make a lot of money selling the game as a print and play, and obviously overheads are minimal, you know, it's almost pure profit if we do print and play. But then the problem is, then loads of people will buy the game and then just kind of not do anything with it. And we want it to hit tabletops. We want people to actually be able to take it out of the box and just play the game. And if you've got to print all the models, you've got to print all your scenery, you've got to print all of your cards and everything else, you've got to do all of that yourself. That's a barrier that's going to stop people doing it. Now, it's not to say we won't also release it in a print and play format for people who do want that, but personally I'd prefer to make sure people are able to just pick it up and get on with it. Okay, so that was harder work than it should have been, but we've now got the little cross crust in the corner of his in the middle of his chest. We've got the armour trim, we've got the breastplate is done. Let's come and have a look at his shoulder pad now, because that one's had some serious adjustments done. Okay, so I'm just going to completely remove the old shoulder pad, I think. Yeah, no worries, mate. You good on your printers, dude. I've got a print plate sitting here staring at me at the moment. I need to get off the printer when I'm done the stream. So it's going to be a little clean-up job now. I've got a client test print on there and a couple of the ones I've done from the last couple of months that I've not got around to printing. But it looks like so far everything's been a success, which I'm happy with. It's always nice when you see a successful print bed. Okay, shoulder pad. Where do I start with this? Let's delete the hidden one. I'm going to append a sphere, probably. Okay, so it's not quite a spherical shape, so we have to do some shape changing, some distortion, whatnot, to make it work. Okay, so it is kind of based on a sphere, so I'm just going to take the bottom of the sphere, I'm going to pull it down. No, I'm going to put it out. I'm going to take the inside bit up to take it from there. I'm going to bring that in as well, and then I'm just going to mask a touch more off I'm going to blow it up like that. Okay, and again, that looks nothing like a shoulder pad at the moment, but what I'm doing is I'm creating forms. So you've got to kind of try and break what you're making down into like basic shapes, and then once you've figured out your basic shapes, you can actually get onto making it. So I'm going to turn the symmetry on Z, which is front to back, not X. And now I can H polish again. Hooray! Okay. So I'm going to smooth out some of this this jaggedness here. Get a nice smooth transition. Same around this thing. I just want this little that ridge line gone. I don't care about this bit down here because that's not going to stay. I don't care about any of the stuff that I'm not going to be using, so I'm just going to be selective about what I'm touching here. Right. Alright, so this shoulder pad looks like it's got a few layers. So we've got the basic underlayer, which is what I'm going to do first. Then we've got like a gold layer, and then a top white layer. I don't know what you guys think, but I'm loving this new art style of the artwork. Okay, so anytime you do the groups. Okay, here's a little tip for cutting straight lines and like changing shapes. You can use the knife tool, but if you use a knife tool, it most likely is going to kill Zbrush. It's going to like nerf it and nuke it. In fact, I need to save my file. So what I do instead is I will use slice curve, cut a straight line, dynamesh it, isolate it, and it already gives you a flat back. Now there's a funny shape here, and if you have these kind of like any like cuttings or anything else, if you use like the knife curve or you use a trim brush or anything like that, what it'll tend to do is it'll fill the entirety of the back with the simplest shape it can manage. So it won't do all of your little ins and outs. You'll have these like little bits of it'll be like webbing in a gap. So if you have like a V-shaped gap, you'll end up with a curved web across the V. And those bits are unprintable. They're too thin. They're like one micron thin. So you don't want those bits. So the best way of doing it is you either use a boolean, where you take a shape and delete that shape from another shape. So you'd have like a square, you'd have a cube here, and the cube would intersect the shape I've got. And then when you do your dynamesh, the cube gets removed, and it leaves a flat line where it's touched the previous one, where it's touched the other shape. The other way of doing it is to do what I've just done, and the only time this one doesn't work is if you're doing like curves. So I'm just going to do another to about there, I think. Yeah, that's good. Okay, so I'm going to delete the hidden on that. So I've now got this shape, and I need to take kind of that corner out, but I need to take like that kind of shape, so it's a curve. The problem with trying to remove this curve, if I try and cut it with a slice, what's going to happen is it's going to end up the shape I want on the outside, and then in the middle it's going to kind of like be more straight, so you're going to get kind of an unusual curve running through. So the best thing to do here is to insert append a cylinder. We're going to smooth the cylinder out a little bit first, get it horizontal. I'm going to run divide on it a couple of times just to take the facets off the outside. We delete that. I'll shrink it right down, and I'm going to stretch it out sideways so it's an oval, and then that is going to allow me to take the bit out I want to take. I'm just going to stretch it this way, pop it in, dynamesh it first because you've got a dynamesh. You can't remove an object if it's not dynameshed. Dynamesh it first, pop it where I want it, and then I'm going to go to my subtool menu. I don't know if I've shown you booleans before, it might be the first time I've done it on screen. So we click on this arrow, which puts the shoulder pad, the primary bit of the shoulder pad, that puts that as my active object, the start object. Now for the second one, I want to click on this second one, which these different icons here, they're your boolean options. So the second one, the first one is just join them together, the second one is remove one from the other. So we start on the shoulder pad here, which also has to be dynameshed, and then we merge the two items together and then redo the dynamesh, and it just deletes it with a perfect form all the way through. And you can have detail on there as well. If you put a face in there and dynamesh a face out, you'll have the inverse of a face carved into the thing, so it's really kind of good for getting the specific shape that you want. So yeah, that's done in there now. The rest of the shoulder pad I'm going to leave solid because it's a 40mm model. It's going to end up creating cavities that are going to trap your resin in if I hollow that out. The best practice is to just leave it completely solid, unless I absolutely need to hollow it for some reason. i.e. like it's going to be like discarded on the floor or something like that. You're going to see the underside of it. So right, that is the shoulder pad form I'm going to use. So the first thing I need to do is to do the gold underlayer. So I'm going to go sideways. I'm going to use my mask lasso, and there's going to be a little bit of I'm going to have to take it all the way like that, but then I also need to come sideways and take these bits. So I'm actually going to use, I can't do it, go from there to there. Balls. And I'm going to come from here down and round. Okay, that is the shape I need. Except at the bottom here, this is going to protrude down into like an arrow. Oh, actually, now I can take that out from the bottom there. Let's just change the profile here a touch. Right brush first would be helpful. Right, there we go. So Island Painter, welcome mate. That is a broadsword, you're right mate. It's not a surfboard, despite how it may look. Although I'm sure he could surf on it if he really wanted to. I doubt anybody's going to tell him otherwise while he's waving that thing around. Okay, so I'm going to extract this now. That's way too thick for what I need, so I'm just going to reduce the thickness down. That's way too thin. Try and find a happy medium. It'll be about 684. No, 985. There we go. That'll do. 985 is good. That's my sweet spot. There we go. Okay, so I just need to come and polish up the sides of the shape now. Just refine the shape I've created. So I want these to be straight. I don't want them to be wobbly like they always are when you do an extract. It doesn't seem to matter how dense your mesh is, you always seem to get these wobbles going on. I don't think I've ever had a clean break or clean edge on a mesh when I've done an extract. I don't think this is giving me symmetry either. I'm just going to redo symmetry, mirror and weld on the z-axis. Yeah, you can see it just made a slight adjustment then. Right, so what I need to do then, I need to duplicate that, I need to inflate it because I need a second layer on top. So this is what's going to be the gold trim. These bits, I believe, are looking to come down into a point. I'm going to pull it to start with. No, I'm going to build it up. I'm going to make sure I've got dynamic tessellation on, just so I get a decent bit of geometry on it. There. So I'm just going to use polish again now. There we go. So that's one side done. Side now. Okay, this is auto group. I'm just going to run a polish on there. So Dynamesh at about 600 with the polish on. There we go. So we're good with that. So now I just need to bring the front down into the point that it's got. So I'm just going to use the move tool for that. It doesn't have to be a big point, it's not going to be drastic. So about there I think is fine. And again I'm just going to H-polish that out. I don't want to add too much thickness to this bit though, so I'm not going to Right, so next one, I'm going to duplicate this now. I'm going to inflate it. And then I need to, I don't really know the best way of doing this, to be honest. How to do, I could just do it nice and coarse and quick. Let's try the rough way. I'm just going to carve it out. I'll worry about the profiling and the overall shape later, but for now. I just want to be able to see two layers all the way around. It's gone very wet and very rainy here at the moment, so it's definitely getting to the point where if you're doing any 3D printing you've got to have the heat on. preheat my office last night before I went and put the prints on. Just hear the wind howling in the garden. Okay, so it's not very clean. Certainly isn't very pretty at the moment, but you watch this bit now, end up as the thumbnail on YouTube. Okay, I'm just gonna polish this to clean it up a bit. I'm just gonna go and sharpen up my edges like I normally do with good old H polish, as you may have guessed. So back in the days of using green stuff and milliput and all those kind of things, you'd apply your putties and you'd end up with fingerprints all over them. So you would always have to come and do this pass no matter what to burnish out all of the bits you didn't want people to see. So you'd have to do your burnishing pass, and that's pretty much what I'm doing in Zbrush with H polish, to be honest. So burnishing, if you're not familiar with the technique, is basically just using like a little balls tool. So it's like a little spherical shaped tip, and you use it in like a like small circular motion. Well, at least that's the way I used to do it with clay. And then once you've got your once you've got your layer kind of polished out, you obviously have to let it all set and dry up then, because I quite often used to get frustrated with sculpting in green stuff and putty and whatnot, because I'd put my finger straight on a bit I've just finished. So spend ages buffing it and polishing it and making it look nice, and then you put your finger on it and you've got a big fingerprint where you've previously thought you'd finished, and it's like soul destroying. Okay, so the only thing I need to do on this, I want to kind of try and straighten up these corners. So there's going to be a little bit of nudging, I think, now, just to make it happen. And I'm going to have to do it on the bottom layer too, because that's also got a round corner. The only way to get this completely straight, which retrospectively now thinking about it I should have done, I'd have to have cut the horizontal lines as one extraction, the vertical line as another extraction, and then just shape them and polish them as I need to, and then merge them all together at the end. Retrospectively, that would have been the easier way of doing it, but I don't fancy going back and redoing all this now. So I'm just going to make good. It's certainly good enough anyway. So, and the last thing I'm just going to do then, I'm just going to turn my orb cracks on, high intensity. I'm going to turn lazy mass off, small size. I'm just going to, a bit too much then. I'm just going to nick the corners. Okay. And now the corners are straight. I just need to pull that up a touch. Right. Same again here. I'm just going to do a little bit of nudging with a small brush size just to kind of get more of a point to the corner, and then if I need to I'll just come back in with my orb crack brush and just notch it, and that'll help to just create that the shape I need. That's not quite straight there. Neither's that. Okay, so shoulder pad done. So we've got a So we've got a multi-layered shoulder pad. Right, multi-layered shoulder pad. Finishing up with the top layer, which is going to be the white layer, I think it is. And I just need to put like a, what do you call it, like a kind of a, is that like a ridge on the top of there? So I'm just going to just mask that off. It does mask through to the other side, so I'm just going to extract that now. A bit more thickness on this one because I need it. Okay, now with this one, I definitely need to get in there and delete that centre part because that's not useful. I'm going to Dynamesh with polish on. I was going to put my dynamic tessellation on because I just need to get rid of this web that it's created. Just going to polish the inside. It's still got symmetry on, so whatever I do on the one end is going back to the other side. I want to try and maintain that kind of curve on here, so it's just again eyeballing it, just trying to get it right. And get on the back. Right, now I think we're going to try and get a point on the top of this. So, let's turn that off. Turn dynamic tessellation off. Any guesses what tool I'm using? Anybody? It's all cracks. No, it's not. H polish again. You might think I'm doing this because I'm using H polish a lot because I'm doing lots of hard surfaces, but I'll be using it on organics and everything. I literally use it all the time. Right, I'm just going to take the corners off like this. Oh. Mirror and weld on the Z-axis to try and get that same shape on the back. And then I just need to come back to my base mesh. So I'm just going to take that away, and that, and that. Oh. No, I've got to undo that because I've screwed up that. Right, so auto. Okay. Let's just take that corner off. There we go. Right, so corners out, mirror and weld on the Z. Duplicate it over. There we go. And I think need to bring this up a touch. So where's my move tool gone? On my centre. Okay, right, there we go. So we're going to merge these pieces together now. Merge down, and merge down. Okay, now I've got auto group, just to make sure everything's in separate pieces. And mirror and weld on the X. Oops. Local symmetry off. Use global symmetry for this one. Mirror and weld, and now we've got the shoulder pad on the other side. Okay, let's just mirror and weld that as well, just to make that work. Right, now his shoulder pad's going to need some, his elbow pad's going to need some work on this new version, and he's got an extra couple of armour plates down his forearms, which he never had before. But they're simple enough. We'll go and append a sphere. Let's get my simple primitives right. Okay, so we're going to put the cylinder in, bring it over to the shoulder pad, and Pinho, thank you for tuning in again. Okay, so we're going to come back, widen this out a touch. I was going to drop one quite high up and then another one further down. So I know there's a few more in the drawing, but if I try and add exactly like that, it's going to be a bit cumbersome to try and move a model. So I'm just going to get to shape in this one. So let's divide it a couple of times, dynamesh it with some smoothing with polishing. Let's slice the back off. Dynamesh with groups, delete, hidden. I want to take an angle out like that. Delete, hidden again. Okay, and then I'm just going to bring the back forwards just a touch, just to change the shape. And I'm just going to come back with a polish. And mirror and weld on Z. Oh, local Z. Okay, right, that's one. And then the second one. I'll bring it down, bring it in a touch. And I'll just rotate them both together. Just to follow the curve of the arm. And then the cloth, I can deal with, the cloth can come in, that's not a problem. Little nudges, little bits of correction there. Right, I feel like I need a strap there to hold those pieces of armour in, or hold them to the arm. Decisions, eh? A little buckle just here that bothers me on the illustration because I can't do it. Let's just leave them, because I think, again, the size of the model, is it going to be noticed? Is it going to be needed? Or is it just going to be a headache for somebody to paint? Let's assume a headache for now. Turn off local symmetry, mirror and weld, pop them on the other side. I think I'm going to come do his face. I feel like it needs doing. Alright, so take the head off the other model here. So this was the head I sculpted for Kurado in the first place. This is his original head. Let's paste it in. And let's see what we need to do to match the things. Remember I said about mirror and welding facial features? We're going to do that now. The other way around. Okay, so on this guy, I've got a separate eyeball upper eyelid, lower eyelid, and then the face is a separate piece. The hair I'm fairly happy with. I like the hair. I'm actually going to leave the hair as it is. I'm not going to get messing with that. The face I need to reprofile and change. So I think I need to make it longer for a start. So let me just isolate everything apart from the eyes. I'm going to bring his jaw down. So he's got a nice square jaw. But I'm going to take the beard off, because although he has got a beard in the artwork, it's kind of like a bum fluff beard. And if I sculpt that onto there like this, it's going to look like a proper beard, and that will change the feel of the character. So we don't want to do that. Move his mouth down and lengthen his nose. Touch. Let's diminish that. With groups still on. Okay, so his nose now is a different shape. It's a bit more pointed than it was. His eyes are wider. Eyebrows are fine, except they don't point down at the ends now, they just carry on straight. Okay, the eyes now. So I'm going to take the eyes. I'm going to widen them, and I'm going to going to bring the very corner of the upper eyelid down. Oh, my bum's going numb here. Raise his eyebrow level. Right, upper eyelid I'm going to bring down a touch. Actually, he's having an action pose, isn't he? So he doesn't want this kind of like... His facial expression needs to be different. Okay, that's fine. I can live with that. I can do that. Sharpen up that chin line. High intensity, low size with the orb cracks. Right, I think I'm going to give him a him a nice scowl. Well, let's see how that looks. I'm not 100% convinced yet, but his mouth's too low. Bring his jaw out of the back. Ah, right. It's a little odd going with his nose there. Alright, not at all. His nose still needs to be a bit longer. Means I probably need to let's try this, see if this works. Kind of looks alright from a 3/4 angle. Problem is when I'm bringing his jaw down from the front to match the view, when I come to the front view he's got a very square face. I don't feel that's quite right. Maybe I just need to bring his cheeks out a bit. think that might be one of my problems here as well. The eyes are no longer round, so kind of feels wrong then because of that. So let's try. Place the lines again. Hey Max, you're on then. Thanks for the light, man. So something is not going right with this face. I need to try and figure out what it is because it's doing my head in. Okay, so well, I might go with that now. Let's see how that looks. I'm going to make the whole head a touch smaller because again we're going for 40mm now, so I don't need to have the large proportions I had on the original. And his hair can also be a bit smaller. Go. Elston, thanks for the sub, mate. Yeah, first one. It's my first stream actually with the Twitch affiliate status on. It completely stuffed me up when I tried to load it on because I've gone and now put two-factor authentication on everything. Couldn't actually launch my stream first thing. So I had to go and have a little bit of fault finding. I literally just about managed to get on live just in the nick of time. Thank you, matey. I totally forget you have the Prime subs as well, you know. Well, I'm making the hands a bit smaller because we've got the... oh, God. As I said before, we're going for 28mm now instead of... sorry, we're going 40mm instead of 30mm. So, this now... is gives us a little bit more leeway with proportions and scale. So that hand is fine there. Right, what did I need to do to the shoulder pads? I think it's just an extra little bit on them, to be honest. I don't think I need to change them too drastically. Let's change the trim, because the trim on everything's changing now. I'm going to have to delete all the trims on the armour. Okay, so the shoulder pads, let's keep calling them shoulder pads, the elbow pads are now larger. Okay, and I've got this extra bit, which, God, I don't even know how to describe that. Thanks, Max. How's setup going? Is it all going well? Are you ready to relax a little bit now, or are you full steam ahead? So yes, so my plan was to have Max on today, but obviously he's had to travel to Spiel to go and get set up. My plan was to have him kind of talk to you all about Crystal Collapse, so you can kind of see what's going on with it and explain some of the ins and outs of what goes on, how the game works, who the characters are, that kind of stuff. So we'll do that for another stream. So I'm not going to promise it'll be the next one, because I've got a feeling Max is going to be on burnout still from a weekend of Spiel. But hopefully soon enough. Oh god, what's going on here? Right, so we get rid of that bit. Yeah, hopefully next time, next year's Spiel, depending on the dates and that, hopefully I may be there myself with Max and Crystal Collapse. So we're hoping to be able to bring Crystal Collapse to UK Games Expo this year as well. Don't think it's going to be ready for ChillCon in Sheffield in April. We might be just about ready to launch the Kickstarter about then, actually, because we're looking at Easter. Kickstarter might be live, or about to go live. Okay, let's just check that on the shoulder pads. Well, so we'll do that outside bit there, and then we'll do an internal trim. So I'm going to duplicate the shoulder, the elbow pads again, split hidden, duplicate. I'm going to enlarge. No, I'm going to inflate. Sorry, so I'll definitely keep them in situ. Polish and smooth. Okay, then I'm just going to draw this mask in again. So we're going to put my laser mouse on. So I'm just going to center that, shrink it, and then bring it back over and bring it back down. Center it, shrink it, left. Okay, now I'm just going to polish, and I'm just going to get in and clean it up. And hopefully these extra little bits of trim and things like that should, with the larger model size, they should still show up enough that they're worth me putting in. And if I do print this model and it turns out to be a little bit, what's the word, over detailed, over complicated, I'll just go back and revise this, and I'll just take out extra bits of trim or see what details don't work. So sculpting a model can be, and should be, an iterative process. So you do your little bit at a time, make a change, see what works, print it, test it, change anything that needs to be changed, do it again. Although I will say that's fine in a production environment, but I think for most kind of like Patreon type creators, there's no way that's going to happen. Okay, so I'm happy with the hands. Now we've got this extra little bit of detail now, which appears to be on the arms. I'm going to isolate the gauntlets, the braces rather. Split them. So we've definitely got, I can see it on the illustration, we've got this whole thing with the drawing where there's a few things that are just suggestive of detail. So I'm going to have to try and wing it and see what I think is going to work. So I'm going to do a mask here. And what's nice with this guy as well is now that he's got all this extra complications and extra details and stuff in his armour, it means that the other guy who I showed you earlier on, who was like the infantry type guys, there'll be a massive standout. They're still similar enough that they are clearly from the same faction, but this guy is also very clearly a wealthy and renowned hero in the faction, just because of his visual aesthetic being that much more ornate and detailed. Oh, balls. Okay, so do I just go with that, or do I put an extra? I'm just going to go with that up the side there, but I'm going to take, I'm going to use a lasso tool, I'm going to take it around here. Yeah, that works for me. Extract that. That's too thick, so we'll take the extraction thickness down. Still too thick. That's fine. Well, so it's like 985 is my sweet spot for extractions. What we doing now? Is that going to ridge up or? Take it up to about 500 resolution, Dynamesh it with the smoothing on, and then I'm going to clean up the sides. I think, as I said before as well, when you're doing this kind of clean up, you don't want your dynamic tessellation on, because you want to be doing it with a large size brush, And if you use a large size brush with your dynamic tessellation on, you're going to get massive pixelation coming on. How's that one not? So, right, so oh, it needs a double layer, doesn't it? Duplicate. I'm going to do what I did on the other one. I'm going to duplicate. I'm going to expand it. But you know what? This time I'm only actually going to do. Yeah, I am. I'm only going to do the main piece. The bottom's going to stay as a gold trim. So group that bit off, delete it, delete hidden close holes, auto group, let's give it a little polish. Okay, so we're going to inflate, and then I'm just going to I'm going to turn symmetry off for a minute. I'm going to rotate this round. So I'm going to shrink it. I'm going to pull it in sideways. Right, so large size, Dynamesh polish. Okay. H polish up the side, sharpen that. On that side, run it down here. And then up here. Okay. And there we go. Oh, hang on. Mirror, mirror mold. That's the same on both sides. Okay, so that is that bit done. Just going to bring the back of the hand out. Just here. Turds. Right, there we go. Okay, so I'm just going to use the move tool again. Large brush size. Hold Alt, click there. I'm just going to pull. That's just going to help to raise the back of the fist. Move the arm back down. I should have softened that mask first because it's just deformed this bit here now. But again, like I said before, don't worry about little mistakes like this, because you can rework them. And then a little bit of buffing in H polish. It's good as new. One of the things that I've found, completely unrelated tangent here, but working in my office down the bottom of the garden reminds me an awful lot of being on a caravan holiday as a kid. Because in England it always rains, it does not respect your holidays. And sitting in the caravan playing cards with my mum and dad, or doing a bit of drawing or something like that, because it was chucking me rain outside and we couldn't do anything else. It's definitely got that vibe, that feel. Okay, so right, there we go. Right, trousers, I'm going to rework. So I'm not keen on this this patterning that's going on. And he's also got, has he got leg armour now? No. I'll do my usual material patterning here. Don't know if the rain is coming through for you guys, but it's definitely severe here now. Just going to keep the intensity below 20. Reasonably decent sized brush for this bit. Too high. Intensity is too high. Last winter when I just built this office, I actually had the rain coming in through the it's like a log cabin style one, and it was I think it was a bilio cabin, and the build quality is terrible. The quality on the cabins is not good. So door fit is terrible. The whole thing is kind of bowed away. It's like within kind of several months of it kind of going in, it had gone into winter. I let the whole thing kind of like dry out before I did any decorating inside, and then none of the wood had been like treated, like pressure, not pressure treated, but it hadn't been like kiln dried or anything like that. So as the wood dried out, it just shrank massively, and I think the whole. I used to have I've got an Epax X10, and the door opens like from the top, the hinge at the top. And when I put it in there, it was on a shelf on a Kallax unit I've got up in the corner, and I used to be able to lift the lid up and it'd actually stand upright. And then within a couple of months, there'd been so much shrinkage on the cabin that there was about an inch of unpainted square showing around the window frames, which shows how much it's kind of shrunk. And the roof had dropped to the point where I couldn't open the printer anymore. I kept cracking myself on the head with it. So I had to put a little hook to hold the lid up there. Little hacks and things, but yeah, if you're after a cabin for your garden, I'd advise against the bilio ones. originally I ordered from Two In, I think it was, and they I'd had a good recommendation from about the chewing cabins, but they couldn't supply. It was just as we were getting into that, you know, lockdown with the everybody was going mad trying to like build home bars and stuff. You weren't allowed to go out to the pub. So yeah, it's one of those kind of things where retrospectively I wish I could have got my chewing. Got the Two In cabin. But yeah, it weren't going to happen at the time. I don't think they had some same supply issues now, but I think they must have just been rushing out production of them or something like that, because I say I don't think what they've supplied is actually you know, worth the huge amount of money they charge for it. Who have we got? Klaus, thank you for the like. Okay, so trousers are done. The legs from the feet down I don't have to touch. That's all good. I'm happy with that. The only thing I am going to do is I'm going to revise the trim. So I'm going to put the trim so it matches everything else higher up, so it's more square edged rather than being round and tubey. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 bits of trim to lose. Okay, now these bits are now gone, so let's take them away. And this loincloth has become a tunic of sorts. I'll just delete it and take it away for now. Yeah, I will. I'll delete it. Right, I think I'm going to do something I wouldn't normally do because of the scale and the size of the guy. I'm going to actually stretch him out a bit. I'm going to take the cloak I made for him on the original one. I'm going to leave that cloaking for now because it serves its purpose, but I'm going to have to reposition it and rework it because it's cutting through his leg because of the new pose. Well, it has no pose at the moment, but you know what I mean. I'm just going to sculpt in the cloth on the torso. And I can just add the skirt using a cylinder in a minute. So talked before several times about unpaintable areas and resin gaps and things and making sure they're filled in. So I'm just going to do practice what I preach here. Okay. So I think when we do Roland's going to be a bit less bulky than this guy, so he's going to be obviously a unit of a man. In fact, let's go get his sword just for. Looks and feels about right. Andre, thank you for the like. Thanks for tuning in. Okay, so I'm just trying to figure out a few of the scaling bits that are going on here. So I think because I've changed some of the change some of the proportions here. I now need to adjust a few more. So I'm just going to bring that foot back. I might just move this. Just makes it feel a bit more substantial. Split hidden on that, okay. I'm going to guess this side got a mirror and well now. There we go. So both sides now match again. Set my move topology brush. I'm just going to bring that foot up there. Okay. I need to do the trim, but I'm not going to do that just yet. Let's get the skirting first, because that's an easier job. It'd been easier still if I'd have used the right shape. I'll use a square. Just hide his cape for a minute. This is just move tools to just push things into the right kind of place. Divide that up a few times, then dynamish it with polish on. Okay, now H polish it, and it's all about shaping now. So I'm just going to get the edge on that I want, just to the underside here. Do you know what? I'm not actually going to spend a lot of time doing this bit right now, because I need to pose him, and once he's posed then I can come back in and like detail, because there's going to be because it's material, that's going to be potentially affected by a bit of wind and stuff that's in the scene for movement. It's not going to look right if whatever I do now is going to get undone later, so I might as well just wait and just do it all later. I'm missing the front of a belt on this guy, so I'm pretty sure it would have been on the other version. There we go. Split hidden, copy and paste. Now I've just got to position it. I was looking straight in. Okay, so next bit to do. What's next? These need bringing out and thickening up here. Even that needs tidying a touch. Okay, better. Well, he is supposed to have this like a leather arm wrap or something like that that goes underneath. I want to make sure that's still a prominent thing. We'll just put a bead around the top of that. Higher intensity, lower size. Group polish, higher resolution. Darnish. There you go. Right, I'm going to stop there with him now, I think. So we're going to knock this on the head. I'm just going to have a little check and see who's on streaming. I think Mike, who I'd normally drop in and raid onto, I believe is on holiday this week or is on a break, but I could be wrong, so we'll see. Oh no, Mike Moans is on. Okay, so let's go and drop in on Mike again, because he's always entertaining. There's only 3 of you left, but let's go and do it. Okay. So thank you all again for joining me today. Next stream, which will be I'll probably do another 1 or 2 this week, but they're not going to be like planned schedule one. There'll definitely be a scheduled one Wednesday next week. I'll probably do a couple of extras during the week of an evening. Maybe during the daytime as well if I'm not doing like commission stuff that I can't show you. But yeah, I'll ping you over to Mike now. And yeah, we'll carry on with him next time, get him posed up, see if I can address that face issue that I've got. So I'm still not 100% with him. He might be alright once he's posed, but we'll see. Right, people, thank you again. Oh god, hang on. Chat's not letting me chat because I've had to update all my credentials. Brilliant. No, do you know what, guys? No raid today. I'm just going to log off. Sort this out later. Right, thanks, guys. It's all been a fun and a pleasure again. And yeah, I'll see you on another stream soon.